Hello, this is Howard the Teaser King coming to you with week 17 of the NFL. This is the big week. So many games mean something, which is very unusual, which is very good for betting. And all the number 1 and number 2 seeds are up for grabs. This is great. I got 5 locks going. This is I know these games are just falling in. I have an unusual game I'm going to talk about right now, and this is Miami against the Jets. And I can hear everybody going, Howard, how the hell can you take the Jets? Are you out of your mind? Miami needs the game. Well, here's the trend. The dog in the series is 18-3. The dog and the Jets in Miami are 10-0, and the dog over the last 12 is 11-1. So you basically have a dog being 18-3. You have a team, Miami, who's a weak home favorite. Every game's close. And you have a team, the Jets, who are really 7-9 and not that bad. Yes, Miami needs the game, but we all saw what happened last week in Buffalo, as predicted by me. They're going as a road favorite. They're not going to get the money because Miami's a lousy road favorite, and Buffalo's a strong home dog, and that's exactly what happened. 19-0. So the game is on the line. What does that tell me? It tells me that this team's a choke. They beat some weak teams, but that's about it. So I love the Jets getting 12.5 in a game that they probably will win. Miami, they'll choke it away. They need it, but they're not, they just showed you last week what happens. The Jets play defense just as good as Buffalo. They'll find a way. I don't know how the Jets are winning, but they find a way to win, and this series is extremely close. So even though, and this is what I'm preaching, they need the game, Miami, to win. They're not a good team. They're an 8-8 team. Take the Jets plus 12.5. Next game, Green Bay, Chicago. I don't have a line on it yet. I guess it's this Aaron Rodgers. They probably won't play him. If they do, we'll look at it. The play as a dog is 17-4. The dog in Chicago's 10-1. The dog is 7-0 the last 7. And the odd thing is, overall, Green Bay's 11-2. This is a Green Bay trend if you can get them. It's also, to me, an over game because clearly neither of these teams have a defense. I don't know. There's no lines. I can't give it to you. I'd say if it's in the 50s, let's say 55 and under, go over with the game. I'm not a big over-under man, but this is pretty obvious. I'll probably play the dog in the game when I get a line. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I might take Green Bay, but I'm not expecting him to play. So as it is, if Flynn's the quarterback, Chicago's favorite, I would say they're going to be favored by 4. Take Green Bay in 10. But let's see what the line comes out at. This is just take the dog, especially Green Bay in this game. Pittsburgh, laying 7 to Cleveland. They need the game and hope that everybody else loses. Baltimore must lose, Miami must lose, and San Diego must lose. Well, that really could happen. Baltimore's at Cincy. It's going to be hard. We've already talked to Miami. You'll probably lose to the Jets. That leaves San Diego, KC. And San Diego's not a for sure win. I don't know that Kansas City's just going to lie down and say, well, we've clinched the top wild card. We can't catch Denver. But they did get buried by Indy last week, which was surprising, of course. However, with that going on, I don't think KC's going to lay down. I don't think you don't lose the way they did last week. It was a 23-7 and just sit there and go, well, we made the playoffs. Let's get blown out by San Diego. And then we'll come into the playoffs. I'm sure we'll win then after getting blown out twice in a row. So I look for Kansas City to play this week, even though theoretically it doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't mean anything for the Jets. They're going to win. Doesn't mean anything for the Giants and Washington and Houston and Tennessee, but guess what? They're all going to play. So I don't buy that. I think that line's way too high, but we'll get there in a minute. Sorry to move around. Anyway, Pitt needs the game. Pitt's laying 7. Pitt is 15-4 as the favorite in this series. everybody's 8-2 the last 10, meaning these games have been close. You can bet the dog, the favorite, Cleveland or Pitt. Everything's 8-2. So Cleveland on the road is a terrible road dog. A bet against road dog. Pitt has been playing better. I just think Pitt wins this game because they beat Cleveland a lot and they're at home. They're going to want to end up with a win. They got a lot of pride and they're playing very well. So I look at Pitt. I don't think Cleveland can really bother them. It's a good matchup for Pittsburgh. Again, 15-4 is the favorite. The last 19, they go, Cleveland's coming. It's just amazing how most of these games are meaningful. I've never seen anything like it. Baltimore goes to Cincinnati. The trend, this is a very even trend. The dog's 8-2 and Cincy's 8-2 in Cincy. 5-1 the last 6 for both. The dog is 10-2 the last 12 in the series. However, you got to watch Flacco. If Flacco's still got the knee brace and Rice, Baltimore needs help regardless. They got to hope that Miami loses and San Diego loses, so their mindset, they blew their chance against New England. Cincinnati has a number 2 seed if they win and New England loses, so they have the big incentive also. They are at home. Normally I would take the dog here. Cincinnati laying a 5.5, 6. You get 11.5, 12. But if Flacco is not healthy, and I don't know, I would say his knee's probably bothering him more than he lets on. I would think they're just a better team. They're at home, and this is a pretty even game. This will probably be a close game, but I would think Cincy wins. But be careful with it. Here's a really surprise trend. I'm going to go off track. Indy plays Jacksonville. The game's in Indy. Indy's laying 11.5. I love Jacksonville and 17.5. Howard, you out of your freaking mind? What do you think? What do you mean Jacksonville and 7.5? Well, let's look at the trends. Jacksonville's 10-0 the last 10 in Indy. 9-1 is the dog. The dog's 16-3 in the series. Jacksonville's 16-3 is the dog. The dog in the series is 17-4. Early in the year, Indy did blow them out at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's playing much better. It's too many points. Jacksonville and 17.5 will cover this game. Indy's a bad home favorite. Jacksonville's a road dog, is good, getting better. They're not the 0-15 team. They're actually playing well. I look for Jacksonville and 17.5 as a W. No question. Again, Indy, they really need help for the second seed. Cincinnati has to lose. New England has to lose. So they'll play well, but don't get deceived by them playing Kansas City. It's every week is the trend. When you look at this trend, it's Jacksonville. Jacksonville plays them twice a year. They know how to play them. They got blown out the first game. They will play hard, even though they don't have anything to play with. I love this week because every game I can track within the division. In a lot of weeks, there's only 1 or 2 of these games where they're in the division. This week, everything. And you just go. Next game, got to be the lock of the day. Merry Christmas. Philadelphia's laying 3 to 6 or 7, depending where. Caesar still has them at 3. MGM has them at 3. Some of them have them at 6 or 6.5. As far as I can see, I'm flying out tonight to bet Philly. Only laying 3 at MGM and at Caesars. This is crazy. I get Philly couldn't handle Minnesota, and the reason I warned against it was Minnesota's a very good defensive team. Not Dallas. Dallas does not have a very good defense. This would have been an over with Aikman, but with Kyle Orton, are you kidding me? This is absolutely a lock with Philadelphia. They'll win by 20 points. Dallas cannot handle that offense. Forget about it. They did in the first meeting because they were getting used, and I don't recall if Michael Vick played or not. It doesn't matter. Nick Foles is running this offense. Dallas cannot stop the win, and Sean Lee's out, and there are a lot of key players out. Romo's out. Kyle Orton's terrible. I quote and talk about Kellen Moore because he did a lot at Boise. Kyle Orton did nothing at Purdue. He's done nothing in the pros, and he's not the guy that's going to win the game. There's no way Dallas wins this game. It's not going to happen. In the series, Phillies 9-2 is the favorite. The favorite's 9-2 the last 11 also. In Dallas or not. So in Dallas, it's a favorite play. Dallas is also 5-1 the last 6 in Dallas, but overall, the way Philly, now granted, Philly looked good against a weak Chicago defense, but they get a weak Dallas defense, and I just don't see them handling it. It's not Minnesota, because Minnesota has a good defense, so please keep that in mind. We talked about the Jets. New England, laying 9 or 9.5 to Buffalo. If you can get a 9, get it. Lane 3. So let's look at this trend. New England, 16-3 is the favorite. New England in the favorite, 4-1 the last 5 in New England, 8-2 the last 10 in New England. Buffalo's a very good home team. They're a lousy road dog. They're a very good bet against road dog. Tom Brady needing this to lock up the number 2 seed and get the bye, wins 99 times out of 100. This is the lock. New England lane 3. I don't care. I'll bet it day and night, every day of the year. If they don't cover, if they win by 1 or 2, oh well. But good luck with Thaddeus Lewis or whoever the damn quarterback of Buffalo is. Not against New England when they need the game at home. New England wins this game by 2 touchdowns. Be careful. New Orleans laying 12.5. Tampa spreads way too high. There's another trend. The dog is 18-3 in this series. Tampa and the dog are 9-1 the last 10 in New Orleans. 4-1 the last 5 in New Orleans, just to keep it more current. This is a dog series. New Orleans needs it to get into the playoffs, because the Arizona game and the Frisco game will be on, I believe, at the same time. I believe they're all 4 o'clock games, as well as, well, really that's it. I mean, Carolina plays early, but if Carolina loses, then New Orleans needs to win the division. I just, you know, I think New Orleans wins, but this is a dog play here. Be careful with it. It's 12.5. Do not lay more than 7 with New Orleans. And they could win by 40 like they do at home, but we'll see what happens. Just saying, the trend's the dog here. Be careful. Now, conversely, Denver laying 12.5 to Oakland, and Denver's the number 1 seed, going for the number 1 seed. If they lose and New England wins, New England gets it because they beat them head-to-head. This is another strong lock on Denver laying the 12.5. If you have to lay 13, but try to get it under 7. This trend is Denver, and the favorite is 4-1 the last 5 in Oakland, 8-2 the last 10 in Oakland. This is a Denver and a favorite trend. Denver handles them, and Peyton Manning will go ballistic. This is a strong, strong lock. Playing with New England, playing with Pitt, playing with the Jets, Philadelphia. You got 5, 6 strong plays, strong trends. Unbelievable. Next game, Frisco, Arizona. I don't have a line. I don't know why. I don't think anybody got hurt yesterday, so I'm not sure what it is. Seattle loses. Frisco wins. They're the number 1 seed. They win the division and plenty of incentive. Arizona wins. They need help from New Orleans. Must lose because Arizona will have beaten Frisco. Frisco's in as a wild card, so this is basically the second wild card between Arizona and New Orleans. Seattle, if they lose and Frisco wins, then Frisco becomes, they win and the number 1 seed. We'll go there in a second. The trend in this Frisco-Arizona game, I don't have a line. I assume Frisco's favored by 6 points. 4 to 6 points should be the line, unless there's some key injury I don't know about. Arizona is a very strong home dog, but the series, when you look at the matchup, Frisco is 9-1 the last 10 there, 6-0 the last 6 there. The dog's 8-2. Frisco's 9-2 is the favorite, 7-0 the last 7 is the favorite, and Frisco's 11-1 in this series, the last 12. It doesn't matter where the game's at. This is a Frisco trend. Frisco still needs it, and they play the same time as Seattle and I believe New Orleans. So everything's going at the same time. So I look at Frisco to come out and play the defense. I would think this game's under unless if it's over, if it's in the 30s, I wouldn't play it under. It's funny, when you see two strong defenses play and the over-under is like 38, it always goes over for whatever reason. And when two strong offenses play and they make the over-under like 60, it always goes under. It's really bizarre the way that works. Take Frisco here, depending on what this spread ends up being, and I can't imagine it being too much. Both teams need the game. Frisco is the better team, and it'll be a close game. Frisco is not going to blow them out. Arizona is a very strong home dog. So depending on the point spread, this is a Frisco trend in this game, and they need it. Which walks us down to St. Louis, Seattle. Seattle laying 10. Seattle in this series is 9-2 at home, 6-0 the last 6. This is again an under game, and this is again Seattle for the number 1 seed. They want to be. You got to realize if they're number 1, they probably go to the Super Bowl. You can't beat them there, except for Arizona did. But it's very hard to beat Seattle at home. That was a matchup with Arizona, but in this case, if they lose and Frisco wins, Frisco's the 1 seed, and then Seattle has to go to Frisco, and Frisco just beat them there a couple weeks ago. So this is a must-win off of a loss. And what Arizona did was they put their cornerbacks on them man-on-man, 9 in the box, and Seattle couldn't run, and they don't have the receivers. That's really Seattle's weakness. Until Percy Harvin and Sidney Rice get back, they don't have that explosive receiver. So if they're able to run the ball and pass a little and Russell Wilson moves around, they're okay, but Arizona matches up very strong with them. In this case, St. Louis has a very strong defense also, but they don't have the quarterback. I just think Seattle can possibly run the ball a little bit better on St. Louis, and I don't think they have the corners that Arizona does to really give them the problem. And Seattle handles St. Louis. It was a tight game in St. Louis earlier on the Monday night, but Seattle did prevail, like 14-9 or something like that, and they came across where St. Louis almost won it at the end. But that was in St. Louis. I look for Seattle. They'll have trouble in this game, but I think they're laying 10-4. I think it's another strong game just because, again, they need it for the 1 seed. And after a loss, teams like this, the number 1 seeds, tend to be very strong. They tend to get very mad, and they tend to play very, very well. And this is a game like the Denver game where they do match up with St. Louis, and they are favorable against them. Where the New Orleans-Tampa Bay game, that's a dog trend, so you got to be careful. This is not a St. Louis trend. This is a Seattle trend here. So I like Seattle to lay 4. Again, this is like the New England. This is like Denver. You got to play the 1 seed when they need it, and they're a better team. Denver should wipe out Oakland. They're much better. New England should beat Buffalo easily. And you've got Seattle beating St. Louis pretty close, but you're laying the 10 down to 4. Again, it's an underplay, and I don't play overs and unders unless I mean them. That's another under. Now there's 2 games. Okay, let's talk Kansas City, San Diego. San Diego's laying 10, needs the game. I don't care. The only way San Diego gets in is Miami and Baltimore lose. I can see that happening easily. Baltimore losing at Cincy with Flacco hurt, and Miami losing because the Jets have their number, which means San Diego could get in. Kansas City doesn't need it because Denver's clinched the division and the 1 seed, and Kansas City, the best they can do is the 5 seed, which is really ridiculous, even though they have the 2nd best record. I think they do. If not, it's tied with New England. But anyway, San Diego laying 10 here is just too much. Kansas City's not going to lie down. They're going to play. I don't care if they got the game now, unless you hear that. And even if they rest Alex Smith, he's not that good anyway. But unless you hear, we're going to play our starters the first half, or we're going to rest everybody, I like Kansas City in 16 here a lot. Now, if they come out and publicly say it, or you're watching the Sunday show and they say, no, yeah, KC's resting everybody, I don't think Andy Reid is the type of coach that he got blown out by Indy. He's going to sit there and say, well, let's get blown out by San Diego. So I like KC in 16 here. I'm sorry, they're too good of a team to just get blown out here, unless they're resting all their players, which is unclear. But at this point, I don't assume they are. Carolina laying 10 to Atlanta. I see is off the board for some reason today. I'll check into that. Again, it's early in the week, but I'm going to Vegas for Christmas, and I am giving you the YouTube now. So Carolina laying the 10. Carolina must win to be the 2 seed. If they lose and New Orleans wins and Arizona wins, Carolina's, I believe, I don't know if they're out of the playoffs or what, because New Orleans would win the division, and Carolina, I got here that Arizona, well, that's if New Orleans loses. So I'm not quite sure if New Orleans has got the playoff berth or Arizona. I'm believing Arizona gets in if New Orleans loses. But if Carolina loses, then I think New Orleans gets the division, and then Carolina would probably be the wild card, I guess, and Arizona would be out. But Carolina doesn't want to be the wild card. It's a must-win. Let's look at the trend. In Atlanta, Carolina's 8-2, the favorites 8-2, and Atlanta's 8-2. The last 6, Carolina's 6-0, Atlanta's 6-0. This is a very close game. I see Atlanta against Frisco. They're facing a similar defense in Carolina. Steven Jackson's playing. That's a different Atlanta team with Steven Jackson. And they shredded Frisco pretty good in a must-win game. I don't know. I'd be careful with Carolina here. They don't show me that they're that type of team that can lay 10 on the road. Yeah, they need it for the 2 seed, but if you're laying 10, if that spread goes to 11 or 12, I think I'd take Atlanta and 18 there before I take Carolina laying 12 or laying 6. But if you can get Carolina like under 4, 3, under 3 for sure, I would take Carolina in a must-win. But this game will be closer than you think. So basically that's it. So let's quickly review. Carolina, Atlanta. Carolina must win the game. Green Bay, Chicago, the winner is in, the loser's out. Pitt, Cleveland, Pitt needs to win, and Baltimore, Miami, and San Diego must lose for them to get in. Still a hope. Baltimore, Cincinnati. Cincinnati needs to win and New England to lose, which is not going to happen for the 2 seed. But they're played at a different time. I think New England's at 4:30, so Cincinnati will play it and have to win it. Baltimore needs to win, but they would need help to make the playoffs. Miami would have to lose, and Baltimore has to win for Baltimore to get in. Indy needs help to be the number 2 seed against Jacksonville, but they, again, will win. And I don't know the tiebreaker between Indy and Cincinnati, but they're on at the same time. Philly and Dallas, winners in. I love Philly there. Miami and the Jets. Miami needs the game. Or actually, they need the win and the Baltimore loss to get in. They're not getting in. The Jets are going to win that game. New England needs the win to lock up the 2 seed. New England in a blowout. New Orleans needs the win. Hope for Carolina to lose. Otherwise, I still need a win for the wild card. I look for them to play a very good game in a trend. The spread's way too high. Laying 12.5. If the spread jumps, I'd take Tampa and 20 in a heartbeat. But New Orleans laying the 12.5 is a little bit high to take New Orleans, but they should still win the game. Denver laying 12.5 to Oakland. Denver needs to win for the number 1 seed. They'll win by 30. Frisco, Arizona, no line. At this point, Frisco needs it, and Seattle to lose to be the 1 seed. Arizona needs it with New Orleans to lose to make the wild card. This is a playoff game. This is a Frisco trend. Arizona's a good home dog. It's a very good under. Take it any way you want. Let's see what happens. San Diego laying 10 to KC. San Diego needs Miami and Baltimore to lose, which is going to happen, but I don't see them covering. They're laying 10. I just think it's too high of a number against KC. I'm not sure San Diego wins this game unless KC lays down. But even with that said, Miami and Baltimore are going to lose. Seattle laying 10 to St. Louis. Seattle must win for the #1 seed. And if they lose and Frisco wins, Frisco is the #1 seed. So this is a playoff game for Seattle, playing a non-playoff team in St. Louis. Seattle will play their best game of the year. The matchups are favorable in Seattle for this game. And Seattle, to lose 2 in a row at home, the best team in the league plays at home and needs the wins. So I buy Seattle. I don't know what happened last week. The matchup problem with Arizona, not going to be I think they're going to win pretty good. I think they're going to get it on, and then Kellen Clemens is going to start throwing some pick sixes. But I don't see Seattle not covering this week. So that's it. Teaser King giving you the Christmas treat. 4 or 5 locks going. I have a big college lock going. It's getting a little bit later in the bowl season, but it's posted on the site if you want to buy it this week. Merry Christmas to everybody. Back to Vegas. Make some more football money. All right. Have a great Christmas and good luck to everybody. Please leave comments. I will be checking my emails there, of course, and leave any comments or questions. All right. Have a great Christmas. Again, it's Howard. Go to the site www.teaserking.com. Merry Christmas, everybody.